Maybe unsurprisingly, but Rolex's Land Dweller, which is a good watch, has just skyrocketed in price beyond anything within reason. So today, we're going to talk about really why, the essence of this watch is lost at any other price, and better watches that you could buy for equal or way less money. I'm talking about even as low as $10,000. Watches that do very similar things at very similar levels of quality and finishing, just for less. So let's do it. Today, I am wearing a Rolex Day-Date double quick, so that's 18238, I believe. Really cool watch. This watch is coming soon to the Theo and Harris watch shop. It's not there yet, but there are a whole bunch of other watches from Rolex and Cartier over there now. So open up another link, go take a look. The link is down below, and enjoy. So today I want to talk about the Land Dweller. So let's start off with what the Land Dweller is and why I think the Land Dweller is good and interesting. And then we'll talk really as a segue into why I think that these secondary market prices really defeat the entire purpose of the watch, which I can't say about a whole other world of watches. So the Rolex Land Dweller was released this past year at Watches and Wonders. It was released to somewhat of a mixed response, and I think that if I may say, the intelligent, fair, ultimate response after a couple of days of deep breaths was, the name isn't great. Land Dweller doesn't really sound very poetic. It doesn't sound like Explorer or GMT Master or Yacht Master or Submariner. But okay, are we really going to, for lack of a better word, crucify this watch based off of a silly name? No, I don't think so. Let's look at the watch for its merits, most of which are great. The case sizes at, I believe, 36 and 40 are terrific. The metals, rose gold, stainless steel, predictably good, nothing whatever. But really the value here is that Rolex introduced, what is essentially a Royal Oak or Nautilus competitor for the first time since the 1970s, when they had their famed oyster quartz. Those are great watches. They're still great watches. They're collectible watches. They're a little bit of a pain in the ass to service, but they're great. But Rolex hasn't had the oyster quartz in, 2 decades or so. So when I say 2 decades, it's not just a long distance of time. It was a whole lifetime ago in the world of watches. 2 decades ago, Audemars Piguet had a hard time selling Royal Oaks. Patek Philippe, the same with the Nautilus. So since their revival in about 2012, 2015, when these watches became hot and ungettable and then trading at wild prices, Rolex hasn't been able to compete in that market. Now, Rolex has done fabulously well with their GMT Master or their Submariner, particularly with their Daytonas. Rolex has done really well. But there is no doubt that Rolex, being slow to respond to the craze of the integrated sports model, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the Nautilus, that they left a lot on the table. Everyone else seemed to respond. Chopard, for God's sakes, responded. IWC responded. Piaget, of all brands, who should have never responded, did. And yet Rolex didn't. But now they finally did. And I think they responded in good form. The Land Dweller is a lovely piece. I don't love the name, and I don't love the dial motif. I don't love it, but it's incredibly comfortable. It is evidently, if you touch it, well made, unsurprising with Rolex. And I think that, people that have worn Rolex, in the past, when they see the Land Dweller in the metal, which I have, and I've seen people see it for the first time as well, get an experience that is independent of hype. Wow, this is unlike other Rolexes, isn't it? It's fundamentally similar, but it's unlike it. And for many reasons, but just the hard angles. Truthfully, other Rolexes aren't as industrial and aggressive. Rolex has many sports models, of course, but they aren't as industrial and aggressive as the inspiration here are like the Royal Oak or the oyster quartz or here the Land Dweller. So it is a different sort of watch, and I think it's great. There's a lot of new movement technology in it that I was going to say I'm not going to bore you with, but someone bored me with it, and I really didn't understand it, and I particularly don't care. So I'm just going to be honest that I don't particularly get it. But I take Rolex's word for it, that the movements are really, really cool, right? And I bet you if I just said that instead of being honest by not knowing, you would have believed me, right? If I just said, and the movements, well, there's a whole separate video dedicated to that, and I'll get into that in a second. But let's just say they're incredible. You would have believed that, wouldn't you? Because that's what everyone does, and you would have bought that. You would have shoveled that shit right up. So anyway, that's the point. That's the honest review, I think, of the Land Dweller. It's a fabulous watch, and the future of it is very promising. I don't think that the name will ever change. but I do think we'll see different dial patterns. I do think we'll see different motifs, different textures, and it's a great watch. And I really love it at its respective price points. Around 14, 15,000 and change for the 40 millimeter. These are, while expensive, if you compare them to, other time-only, stainless steel watches, sure. But I think that for what they are, they're actually pretty fair. I really do think that. I think that at $15,000, this watch being, on a finishing level, it doesn't, no one's really making an actual intellectual argument for why this watch is objectively inferior to, the Royal Oak. No one's really making that argument because, it's been kind of shown in the somewhat cover of darkness that, even counterfeit manufacturers abroad are able to essentially achieve flawless or indiscernibly different, finishing techniques on their clones. So yes, we can admire the finishing and the design of these watches, but I do think that sometimes we put a little bit of an unrealistic weight on, on the technique required. I don't mean to say that and be dismissive or kind of disrespectful to the craft. I just think that finishing is a word that we assign a lot of value to, and while that is true when it comes to movements, and it's true when it comes to, many things, I don't necessarily think that the brushed angles of a Royal Oak are the most incredible examples of artisan, finishing, right? So in that, I think that Rolex at $15,000 has really delivered a heck of a response to the Royal Oak and to the Nautilus. A heck of a response. Now, the catch is the Land Dweller, like the Royal Oak, like the Nautilus, is ungettable. Can't get a Land Dweller. People are saying different numbers of spend history that you need to have with Rolex or a respective, jewelry store in order to be allocated a Land Dweller. I don't know what that number is, but I'm sure it's really high. And I can tell you what these watches are trading for on the open market, and that's the reason I made this video, is because I started to see what people were paying, which is crazy. We're talking about $36,000 for the 36 millimeter watch, $44,000 for the 40 millimeter, and $78,000 in rose gold. This is really high. And then, of course, at those numbers, my previous point about it being a great response, are really, they're still objectively true because Rolex's retail price isn't this absurd. But, so far as the average consumer is concerned, these are actually more relevant prices than the retail prices. The retail prices are kind of irrelevant, so it doesn't really matter to me. What Rolex sells it for, if it's not gettable at that price, is kind of irrelevant. Is it worth the price that it costs on the market? And at these prices, I don't think that it is at all. I think that at these prices, you are simply paying for hype. And in that endeavor, I think it is just such a fool's errand. I think that is so silly, right? To pay all of this money, this extra $20,000, to say that you got the cool Rolex when literally no one cares and everyone hopes that all the teeth in your mouth fall out. That's true, by the way. That's true. No one's happy for you when you get the watch. If you tell 20 guys in your core group, your core watch group that you go to watch events with, that you got the Land Dweller, 8 out of 10 of them hope that you die. Young. Okay? I really mean, nobody cares and everyone wishes ill will. That's just true. And the minute you leave, someone goes, okay, who did he have to, for that, that's it. It's true, right? The only reason you get it is to reverse engineer this response. And the response that you're intending to reverse engineer of, wow, that guy's so cool, actually isn't real at all. The real response is, what a blowjob. That's true. So why spend the extra money, remove the whole value conversation? The watch is now no longer, objectively worth what you paid, meaning in value, right? I don't mean in stability, although these watches could be very volatile as well. I mean more like the material of the watch compared to the price we are paying, right? It's not a $40,000 watch, right? People are paying it to reverse engineer something that can't be reverse engineered that way. So that's my problem. So now to the point of the episode, I suppose. Well, what watch then, Christian? Don't just be negative. Don't just be critical. Be constructive. What watch? This is how I talk to myself in the mirror. Be constructive, Christian. But it's hard to be constructive when you're naked and look like me. What was I saying? What watches should you buy instead? Okay, so I've got a couple of watches here. One actually from Rolex, two from Audemars Piguet, one from Bulgari, and one from Parmigiani Okay, some really good stuff here. So let's start off with the Rolex. Let's start off with the most obvious answer. I actually believe that the Rolex Yacht-Master in titanium at $28,000 secondary market, and I believe it's like $14,000 retail, could be a little bit more, I'll check, is actually, I don't think it's a no-brainer. That's not how I feel. But I actually do think that it makes a lot more sense. I think the Yacht-Master at $28,000 or $26,000 actually makes more sense than the Land Dweller at 36 or 44, and probably 44 at that matter, because the Yacht-Master is 42 millimeters, and if you're in the market for a 42 millimeter watch, then if you want a Land Dweller, it's got to be a 40, and now you're at 44,000. 28,000 versus 44,000. I actually think the Yacht-Master is cooler. I think that if you wear it, the average person won't care, but they won't care about the Land Dweller either. But even Rolex guys will be like, holy shit, I haven't seen a Land Dweller. I haven't, no, see, that defeated my own point. Oh shit, I haven't seen the Yacht-Master in titanium before. That's so cool. Can I actually try it on? And then they try it on, they go, whoa, man, tubular. That's so light, man, whoa. And it'll be cool. And you could be like, yeah, I know, it's freaking cool, right? And then everyone moves on. $28,000 and everyone just moves on. It's true. And then the best part is you go home and you get to stress about money. That's the truth. That's watch culture. Everyone's like, I don't stress about money. Yeah, you do. But yeah, that's a better watch. And that's a better watch at a better price. I think it actually makes more sense. And I think it's very cool. Another watch, diving way down in price. I know we've mentioned this before, but it remains true. Bulgari's Octo Finissimo. A million different variations, different colors. Big watch, sure. But if you're wearing a Yacht-Master at 42 or a Land Dweller at 40, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Bulgari will fit you. They're also releasing a smaller one supposedly in the next year or two that apparently is going to be just perfect. That watch is like $10,000 to $12,000 right now. And it is every bit as good, smart, and beautiful and well made as any of these other watches we're talking about. Every bit. To be fair, the Octo Finissimo is not able to take the beating that the Land Dweller is able to take. I'm sure of that. But how many Land Dweller owners are going to give their watch a beating? Right? That's probably not true, right? It's probably not going to happen. Next watch, Parmigiani's Tonda. I don't love the bracelet on this watch, to be honest with you. But that is a matter of taste that's totally subjective, so I won't let that hold me back here. But at $18,000, you get a watch that is of remarkable construction. Remarkable construction. The quality of the hand finishing on the dial is unbelievable. The color's unbelievable. The fluted bezel, the movements are gorgeous. Can't even compare these movements. Microtor, hand beveling on all of the plates, gorgeous stuff. $18,000. Come on. Audemars Piguet, Royal Oak Chronograph. If that's what we're doing here, if we're doing the whole Royal Oak thing, which is the whole response to the whole point of the Land Dweller is a response to the Royal Oak. If we're doing that, it's $35,000 right now. I remember these watches were 48. 35 grand. I think it's a pretty safe buy at that number. And you can get the previous generation, which is thicker, for, 29. So I think that these watches actually do represent a heck of a lot more value, and they don't have not all of them have the clout that the Land Dweller has, but that's extremely temporary. And even now, nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. Now, I will end here. If you truly just don't care about the money, and you don't, $44,000 is the same number to you as 15, of which there are many of you. God bless you all. Then sure, get the watch. You get to skip the line, pay some money. It's what you do at Disney World, I guess. I don't know. I don't go to Disney World. I wouldn't know, but I've heard you could skip the line with money. Which, I can get behind. So I get that. I can understand why you do it, but don't delude yourself to think that it makes you in any way cool to anyone else. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So if you like it, God bless you, get it. And if you like it and want to just stare at it in a case, I would care either. It doesn't really matter to me. But if we're really having a conversation about value, about what we're trying to reverse engineer or what we're trying to own, I think this was very valuable. This is very valuable. So more important than any of that is go take a look at the Theo and Harris Watch Shop. Shop vintage watches from Rolex, Datejust, Day Dates, Patek Philippe, some of them. Cartier tonneau in the shop right now is gorgeous. So head on over to the Theo and Harris shop. Shop straps as well. We're a family business. We appreciate your business. And we're actually adding in a phone number function to the site now where you guys will be able to schedule calls, which I am going to take. We're probably going to do about an hour or 2 hours a week where we set aside to take some sales inquiry calls. And that's it. So head on over to the site, take a look, and I'll see you all soon.